Hello, my name is Jacob Barnes.
And my name is Buffy Cautela. Our feature film screenplay, At a Window, will tell the story of an elderly woman recently diagnosed with a terminal illness who was forced to live out her final days with her estranged adult daughter in rural Maine.
Through our research, we've conducted a series of interviews with a number of people who have experienced the tragedy of losing a parent in order to better the authenticity of our screenplay, explore the dynamics between a child and a dying parent, and further the concept of death as a character in relation to both.
Along our character's journey, she will make the ultimate decision to end her life using death with dignity.
Because of this, we've reached out to Lynn Tobin, a volunteer for Death with Dignity in the state of Maine, to give us a better grasp of what it is and the services they provide.
So, without further ado, here's what Lynn had to say about the organization.
Death with Dignity and the organization are two different things. The organization, their primary goal is to go into various states where there is a grassroots campaign or interest and helping to facilitate getting the legislation passed. A lot of it has to do with educating constituents and educating lawmakers about what death with dignity really is. The organization is there to get the legislation passed and also to help individuals who are dying or have a life-threatening illness that will probably cause their death find ways in which they can find another way to die that is more comfortable or palliative to them. When a person gets a diagnosis that is terminal, which means 6 months or less to live, usually a person will go into hospice care. They're either comfortable or they're not. They have some time, hopefully they have some time to think, and they have good nurses who can tell them what to expect. Then they have to go to their doctor and ask for a prescription for the medication that they can take to die with dignity. That is, when they want to die, surrounded by the people they want to be with, the ability to say their goodbyes, the ability to not be in pain. Your doctor may not agree with that philosophy. He doesn't have to. So Death with Dignity has lists of doctors in Maine or Vermont or wherever that are willing to write the prescription. So you have to have one doctor, and then you have to have another doctor, and you give your verbal message to the doctor. 2 weeks later, you have to give it again. In some states, you have to have it written down and given to the doctor. So it's not something that you wait until the last minute. It is not considered suicide. The insurance company has to pay your benefit because you're dying from the disease. A lot of people have real misconceptions about what it is, and it's about educating other people and trying to disavow them of things that scare them to death. Most people don't want to talk about dying. I'm lucky because I'm a baby boomer and there are 75 million of us and we're all starting to bite the dust. And when you watch as we have watched, our parents die and our friends die, and it brings your own mortality into question, and you must say to yourself, I too will die. Even though nobody wants to believe that. Everybody thinks they're going to find the magic bullet out. But then when you really start thinking about how you want that to be, and you have watched it be a really difficult thing for some, and you don't want that to happen to anybody else. I had a client, she was on hospice care, and I don't know who was giving her the medication, but she was just in excruciating pain. You don't forget it. Just like the peaceful deaths that you witness, it's a very beautiful thing. And if you have a choice, that would be my choice, but it's a very individual choice. Everybody, there's a saying that you die the way you live, and I'm not necessarily sure that is accurate. When you're dying, your body is dying, but the struggles that you've had through life, if you have bad relationship problems, or if you're terribly anxious about life, those things don't go away just because you're physically dying. They sort of magnify. So what I have witnessed through my work at the hospital and in hospice care and with clients that I have been with as they have died is that if they feel safe, there is a sense of peace and of ease. And that is what I have witnessed through the stories that I have heard of people that have been able to use the medication. Dying is hard work. Even when there's not a lot of pain, there's, your body is shutting down. Sometimes there's it's like you're running a race. There's a lot of heavy breathing that goes with it. And then you go into the chain stoke breathing, which is a gasp, and then you release. Gasp and release. And eventually there's nothing, and it's over. But, people perspire. They're working hard for their bodies to shut down. Sometimes it's extremely painful. And if you have the right caregivers, if you have your medicine, then it can be a very peaceful transition. Witnessing from afar or hearing about the people that have had the medication, there has never once been anybody that, didn't have a peaceful transition. In Oregon, it's been a law for over 20 years, and just a few thousand people have ever used it. What it is a safety net. When you're dying, when you have a diagnosis that is very dire, everything slips away. Your control slips away. Sometimes you can't use your arms or legs, or control your bowels, or control what you're going to eat, or control where you're going to live. You can't do the kinds of things that you want to do. And one thing that a dying person wants to hang on to is as much control as possible. And having that prescription, whether you use it or not, makes you feel safe. And the caveat is you have to be able to do it when you can do it. You can't wait for the perfect right moment, because the moment might pass you by.